This ain't your daddy's cartoons, it's likely your grandpa's, cause this is pretty old. Heavy Metal from 1981, a brutal anthology of unrelated short stories mixed together with music that matches the title. Though today's audiences may see this as too trashy, the animation sometimes too clunky, and the stories kinda end before they get anywhere, it's a flawed classic. But you have to respect the history. Adult animation or the ability to watch slick animated shorts weren't all that common back then. When you wanted sci-fi, giant robots, or a grand epic fantasy at this scale, cartoons could do stuff live action wished it could before CG became common. Heavy Metal's movie and the magazine it's based on were an influence on Akira, Aliens, The Fifth Element, Blade Runner, tons of stuff. Like anything influential, a reboot was planned. Just ignore that one. A different reboot from the edgelords who directed Fight Club and Deadpool 1, David Fincher and Tim Miller. Since 2008, the duo have been trying to get a modern-day Heavy Metal into theaters. They had 24 short stories planned, some of which would be directed by Zack Snyder and Gore Verbinski. TV by that point was comfortable with adult animation, but Hollywood wasn't. Switching channels to Adult Swim is one thing, but Hollywood refused to believe anyone would get out of the house to watch the same, especially after PG-13 cartoons from the era didn't make much money. Thus, nothing was made. In 2011, David Fincher lost the film rights and Robert Rodriguez picked them up only to hit the same roadblocks. Fincher and Miller have been trying to get this funded for over 10 years to no Advil liquid gel. But in the modern age, if the theaters won't take it, streaming will. Netflix didn't know if a thing like this could be successful, but they did know it'll be interesting, so they took a risk. Rodriguez still owned the Heavy Metal movie rights, so Netflix created 2019's Love, Death, and Robots. "18 short films from different directors and studios, most of which based on a short story. Whether it be the Animatrix or oh yeah cartoons, I love these grab bags of shorts. LDR was a fun watch. I love seeing people argue what's the best or worst. There's some good stuff in here, but a lot of these didn't make me feel anything beyond, that was a cool fight, I guess. A modern day Heavy Metal is right, but maybe it also takes the worst aspects of it. As you can see by this poster, it's not a Netflix animated anthology, it's an NSFW animated anthology. Whoa there, cowboy, I'm from the 1920s. I didn't know cartoons could say a bad word. As I expected, LDR tries too hard to be adult. You could easily remove blood or swears from some of these and they really wouldn't lose anything. Yeah, Heavy Metal was also crude, but we didn't have adult cartoons on TV every night back then. When people say cartoons are for kids, I'm fairly sure they're aware South Park and Family Guy exist. In my experience, they mean cartoons are thematically for kids. You gotta do more than show gore to have people respect animation on the level of live action, but I believe we're getting closer to that with superheroes and cartoons becoming more mainstream. Now, the name Love, Death, Robots is meaningless. Not all of these contain robots. You could have easily have called this cats, rape revenge, and shootouts against large swarms of enemies with the repetition. I will admit, there are some gorgeous animation with this collection, it's worth a watch, but I got tired of seeing so many of these trying to be that overly realistic CG style. Many of these could have just been live action. Again, Heavy Metal ruled because that stuff wasn't possible in live action at the time. You gotta push the stylization. Love, Death, and Robots is a nice showcase for the technology, but only one of them, beyond the Aquila Rift, actually impressed me in its realism. Everything else looked outdated. It's a tech demo for what would have been more impressive 10 years ago. Maybe some of these were just leftover pilots. So I ask you, which of these do you think would make for a good movie, show, or game? Which is the best and worst? With no spoilers, I'll be ranking these from worst to best. It's Juice and Jam time.
Comrades, we stand here. We die here. It has been an honor.
While it's the last one of the season, Secret Wars is the worst. Here's some realistic Russian soldiers fighting a swarm of enemies. The way the battle was cut really felt like a trailer for some Call of Duty Zombies mode. There's nothing here interesting conceptually or artistically. Maybe 10 years ago I would have liked this more, but after so many years of big CGI battles in every Hollywood movie and video game trailer, this just isn't all that special.
Gil, I want you to look inside this ice cube and tell me what you see.
Are those spirits in its side?
What?
Okay, honestly, this motion capture stuff is really convincing. Oh wait, no, it's just real people. Ice Age feels out of place given that it's the only live-action short. It's got a cool little idea of a couple finding something in their fridge, though The Simpsons did it and did more with this concept, which was also a parody of a Twilight Zone episode. Ice Age has that concept, but only covers the tip of the iceberg. It sets itself apart by focusing on the couple's reaction instead. Interesting take, but it wasn't all that funny.
The Air Wing has a tradition. Rookie pilot gets the ship nobody else wants. In my flight group, that ship was Lucky 13.
The Lucky 13 is a cursed aircraft that has some dark secrets. An intriguing idea, but they spend too much time with the long, senseless shootouts in this anthology already filled with shootouts. There's potential here for something more creepy and sweet.
I've been habitating here more than 20-odd years now. And some new highfalutin sanitation law don't mean shit to me, Mr. City Inspector.
A federal employee is tasked with investigating a scrapyard only for a hillbilly to tell his side of the story. Kinda wholesome and pretty funny, but not one of my favorites. The first short they featured is Sonnies Edge. In a neon-lit future, a girl seeks revenge in a Pokemon-like competition. Trainers have their Pacific Rim kaijus fight to the death. Pretty brutal, but I found this one to be trying too hard to be violent and sexual, even compared to the other shorts. Like, honestly, did we need to see all of that? Did that benefit our local community? I don't think so. This was okay. All I got of this was a cool fight, really. Now, don't get me wrong, I love extreme amounts of tits and blood in a story. Crank and Hardcore Henry are some of my favorite movies ever, but it feels out of place when there's too much of it in a more serious story.
Welcome to Multiversity, America's leading alternative history research app.
What if Hitler died sooner and no one consulted Alternate History Hub on YouTube? Just a funny what if scenario. Alternate history should be a recurring segment, especially with the gag they cap off at.
When the yogurt took over, we all made the same jokes. Finally, our rulers will have culture. Our society is curdled.
When yogurt took over the world, that's all you need to know. It does so much with what sounds like a one-note gag. Compared to the previous Hitler cartoon, this yogurt short felt wittier and wasn't just random zaniness. Also, good choice in making this sound like an Orson Welles radio play. I thought Helping Hands was just a rehash of that Sandra Bullock's movie, Gravity. Somewhat, but this goes in a far more gruesome territory. I had to look away while watching this one. It's perfect for a grim short story.
5 minutes to objective. Stay sharp, metalheads.
Copy that. Countdown to mayhem.
We gonna let Rookie in on this?
Depends. Hey, Rookie, your balls dropped yet?
What? Fuck you, Suey.
BlindSpot feels like an 80s toy cartoon like G.I. Joe or Thundercats, except this has swear words for no reason and a budget. These are the Metalheads, a gang of road warriors. I love the cel-shaded robotic style. Reminds me of Mega Man Legends, especially with the 2D mouths on 3D heads. It's a cool short, but at the last second they introduced an existential concept that would have made for a more interesting premise. I kind of want to explore that. Yeah, I get the joke is supposed to be that this is an 80s toy cartoon where death doesn't matter and they'll be fine by the next episode, but it feels like we could have done more with this than just some action scene. Here are some mercenaries and researchers exploring a cave where they face a soul sucker, which is the title of the short. I'm just glad to see French 2D animation on here. It's quite gruesome, but creative with its violence. So much of it reminds me of a Resident Evil game, both in design and the fact they manage resources for a scene. It's fun, I guess.
Yeah, shit happens. But somebody will come along and give us a lift.
Nobody's gonna come down this cutoff. Nobody except idiots like us.
During a road trip, a car breaks down in the middle of the desert and something weird happens that causes this short to be called Fish Night. It's got pretty colors, and by the end of it I said, hey, that happened. Which is what I would have said, but then I read someone's analysis. Something about old age meaning accepting things coming to an end, empires fall, whereas the young are ambitious and assuming they're invincible. That's the kind of poetic stuff we need in these anthologies. A bit of a controversial one, but here's The Witness.
The Witness! Yo, I insist!
anything! If you play this game, fuck you!
A girl sees a murder take place and runs the hell away while the bad guy follows. She could run to the police, but look, economy's tough right now. She's gotta go to work, which happens to be at some BDSM brothel bonanza. Yeah, the witness is scummy and trashy, but it's stylistically scummy and trashy. Before you ask, yes, the art director for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Alberto Mielgo, wrote and directed this, so this may take place in the Spider-Gimp dimension. The witness is super stylish over no substance, which I'm mostly fine with. It's a good style and the girl has great pubic hair and all, but we don't see her vagina.
Oh man!
At the beginning and end of the story, they throw in an idea that's like, hey, ain't that weird? Well, we're not gonna cover it. I'm kinda mixed on this. Part of me likes how we can easily imagine what happens next after the credits roll, but another part of me feels this just presents the basis of a crazy premise and it really did nothing with it. I'm not asking to be spoon-fed an explanation, but it'd be nice if the stripper would stop dancing on the dinner table. The potential for more seems to be my problem with this anthology, but you know, who needs to explore strange new ideas in this experimental showcase of shorts? Just throwing explosions and softcore porn. Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey was too boring. They need to spice it up like that one Robot Chicken skit.
This summer, catch a brand new edition of 2001 featuring Playboy cybergirl Robin Maine.
It's full of stars! Wow!
NBC Sunday Big Event returns following these messages.
While it does not look as good as the other ones trying to be realistic, Shapeshifter had the better story. Here's an army unit on patrol, and they're aided by a soldier who has some mysterious powers. An intriguing setup that had me wondering where this was going. I love unraveling a character like this. I could picture this short maybe being turned into a shitty live-action Hollywood movie starring Sam Worthington.
Lock and load, boys! It's time to see what you're made of!
Fire!
Yeah!
There was bound to be mech suits in this series, and we got mech farmers versus space invaders. It's kinda cliche with all the shootouts on this list, but I had the most fun with this one. I could see this as the basis for some sort of farming simulator / tower defense video game. I would love to see more from these characters.
Tom?
Greta? Is that you?
In the flesh.
As of now, Beyond the Aquila Rift is possibly the closest to realistic a fully motion captured project has ever looked. There's moments that had me debating if this was live action or not. It makes all of Robert Zemeckis' movies look like an even bigger piece of fucking shit than they already are. Beyond the Aquila Rift looks almost photorealistic. Almost. Regarding the story, here's a crew who got lost in hyperspace. The less I say, the better. It got fucking crazy. I think my only issue with it is the pointlessly explicit sex scene. I mean, you can have sex in your story, but it didn't need to be that long. That's just unrealistic.
Uh-oh, hot dog!
Though that did not hinder my reaction to the big reveal.
And, what did humans do with these things?
Oh, man, what didn't they do? They bounced them?
That's it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
These were humans. Bouncing things was close to maxing out their cognitive range.
No, but also sometimes they would take the ball and hit it with, like, a stick.
What?
After humanity is wiped out, 3 robots explore the land trying to make sense of human society. It was funny and I think could work as a series. I appreciate this one robot's design. It's so simplistic, yet they're able to do so much in giving her expressions. I want more of this.
I miss my father terribly. But a part of me was relieved he died when he did, before the first trains roared through the village. The world was modernizing. He would not have understood.
In 16 minutes, Good Hunting really develops a world from a feudal Japan to a steampunk metropolis. Mythical creatures slowly lose their magic as robots become the future. A society where magic is dead and women are born with a Geometry Wars ship on their nose. My favorite scene was this glorious transformation sequence bringing to life a style similar to Hajime Soriyama's robot pinups. Good Hunting has a lot of mature subject matter, yet it kind of feels like a sweet little fairy tale, and best of all, unlike the other ones on this list, or a bunch of anime in general, they did it. They showed vagina, yeah! They also show dick in all these shorts, but it's usually the dick of something you don't want to see.
Man!
But for Zima, the human form was too small a subject. The search for deeper meaning caused him to look further, to the cosmos itself.
This here is perfection. Zima Blue stars one of my favorite artists, Robert Valley, who illustrates an abstract kind of story, one of an eccentric artist who's obsessed with a single shade of blue. While I enjoyed the previous shorts that felt like a pilot to a future show or movie, these anthologies are the right place to tell a one-shot story like this. Zima Blue has subtle humor and a fascinating character to follow. It's also one of the least explicit shorts within Love, Death, and Robots, showing you can tell a mature story without being vulgar. If there is a season 2, I hope they learn something from this short.
Columbia Pictures takes you beyond the future to a universe you've never seen before in heavy metal. Heavy metal, rated R.
Now playing at the Cinerama Dome Hollywood and the Cinedome.
Oh, she's eating for 2, 3. 7-Eleven Chunky Burritos.